If you're a coach who doesn't know what I'm about to share with you, you could be leaving thousands of dollars every month on the table. I'm about to share 10 weird truths about pricing your coaching offers that don't make any sense, but can easily double or triple your income if you apply them. So if you're ready to start signing higher paying clients and making more money as a coach, keep watching, because I'm about to show you how. Hey, my name's Jason Moss. I'm a multi-six-figure business coach, and I've helped thousands of coaches launch and grow their businesses. And before we dive in, if you're looking for a roadmap that you can follow to help you sign 2, 3, 4, or more high-paying coaching clients month after month, I put together a free client attraction guide you're definitely gonna wanna check out. And all you gotta do to get this is click the link above or in the description down below. The first weird truth about pricing for coaches is that, in general, the higher your rates are, the better results your clients will get. This is something I learned the hard way when I first started coaching. I was selling a lot of lower ticket programs and courses that were $100, $200, $300. And when I looked into the data at the number of people that would actually spend that money and then not even go through the program, it was shockingly high. And it was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. There's so many people who spend this money and don't even do the thing. Now, when I started charging higher ticket rates for what I did, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 or more, this completely shifted in my business. And I started seeing a dramatic difference in terms of the way that my clients were showing up to the experience of actually working with me. And at the end of the day, the results they were getting because of it. People were more committed. They would show up to the calls. I wasn't dealing with issues in terms of people not going through the program. So a lot of coaches have this idea where it's like they want to help people. They want to make a difference in the lives of so many people. So they think that just charging as little as possible for what they do and bringing all these clients on board is the best way to do it. When in reality, if you actually care about helping people, one of the best things that you can do is set up your pricing so that when someone steps on board, it feels like a little bit of a stretch. Because when someone feels like they've got skin in the game, they're gonna be more committed, they're gonna show up, they're gonna do the work, and they're gonna walk away with better results after working with you. The second weird truth about pricing for coaches is the truth of pricing as a proxy for value. What the heck does this mean? Well, this is something I noticed when I started working with higher end clients. What I found, and I remember a conversation I'm thinking of, actually, I was on a sales call maybe 2 weeks ago with someone who told me, if you were priced a lot lower, I'd probably be concerned. I probably would think what you do is not as valuable, because I'm someone who sees higher ticket pricing as a proxy for value. And this is how high ticket clients think. The clients that you want to work with are the clients who equate value with higher ticket rates, which means if you've got the lowest pricing, generally what you're going to attract is people who are more price sensitive, who aren't necessarily the best kinds of clients. So when you're setting your rates, just remember that depending on where you want to play in the market, you're going to attract a different type of person. And generally the best kinds of clients, the clients that are going to be the easiest to work with, they're not hopping around trying to find the cheapest option. As a matter of fact, the opposite is more often to be true. In other words, they're looking for a higher ticket program because they see higher ticket rates as a proxy for value. And that brings us to the third weird truth of pricing for coaches, which is monthly pricing versus flat rate pricing. See, a lot of coaches chasing monthly recurring revenue. They think there's this like magic thing that happens when you've got a program where you've got people paying on a monthly subscription or something like that. And it can feel tempting to want to chase this because there's this idea that, oh wow, if I can just get like 50 people paying me X amount of dollars every single month forever, then I'm going to be set. Here's the reality. Flat rate pricing is almost always going to produce more lifetime value per client than charging monthly, because what typically happens, and most coaches don't think about this when they're setting up monthly recurring programs and things like this, is people will churn after a couple months. So if you look at the difference between maybe charging $5,000 one time for a coaching program versus charging $500 a month, you're almost always going to make more from charging that one-off $5,000 than you are the $500 a month. Now, this isn't always the case, but it often is. The other thing that I like about this is when you're charging monthly recurring rates, oftentimes someone's going to get, 2-3 months into working with you, maybe they'll hit a snag or there's some challenges, and they're going to be much more likely to give up because they've got an out. Versus if someone invests one off and I'm working with them for an extended period of time, they're more likely to see those challenges through and end up on the other side getting the results that they want. So Monthly recurring revenue, not what it's chalked out to be. It's not like the magic answer to all of your cash flow problems. In most cases, flat rate pricing is going to be a better choice for your business. And that brings us to pricing truth number 4, which is the too expensive myth. How many times have you been on sales calls with a potential client who says it's too expensive? Well, most people, when they get an objection like this, typically they launch into a conversation about payment plans, or they want to kind of address the financial objection as they see this. But here's the truth. Too expensive in most cases is a myth. When someone's telling you it's too expensive, 8 times out of 10, what they're really saying is, I just don't feel connected enough to the value of what you're offering. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't cases where there's a genuine financial barrier, but the truth is I've talked to so many coaches who get on the phone with us, and because they really want to work with us and because they see the value of that transformation, even if they don't have the money up front, they go out and get a loan. And there's so many different possibilities that someone typically has. Money is almost never a barrier when you really want something. So rather than chasing the whole conversation around finances, it's better to look at how can I do a better job connecting someone to the value of what this transformation is going to provide in their life, asking the right questions on sales calls so you can do a better job at that. This is a big part of what we teach coaches inside Coach and Launchpad and all of our programs, because when you've got the right marketing and sales in place, these things become far less of an issue. So in most cases, it's too expensive is a myth. And that brings us to truth number 5, which is the dangers of discounting. Be very tempting to discount your programs, to run promos where you talk about, here's this thing that we're doing, for the next week, you can get $1,000 off or whatever it is, just discounting in general as a sales strategy. Because what you do when you discount is you train your audience to wait for things to go on sale before they reach out to you. I had a guy, who was reaching out to me a while back because we've done, some discounting in our business at various points. And he said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, but are you going to run another promo in 3 months? That was an indication to me that I had, through my marketing and through discounting over an extended period of time, I had trained him to think about our marketing as cycles of discounts. In other words, I can just push this off until the next time you're going to drop the rates. This is not a great thing to have in your coaching business. And it can also position you as a less premium provider. If you think about companies like Apple, the companies that are associated with really premium pricing and premium brands, you almost never see them discounting. This is not a strategy that really high-level brands use. It's generally a strategy that companies use, like Bed Bath & Beyond, for example, which just went out of business. My God, every month and a half, I would get coupons from them. It was the eternal 20% off. It didn't even mean anything after a certain period of time because there was just always a discount. This is generally something that is a short-term benefit, but can actually be a long-term cost in your business. I think the best strategy when it comes to sales promos is, rather than discounting, looking at how can I include a bonus or add something in that maybe is available for a time limited window. So maybe it's an extra coaching call, or maybe it's higher levels of support or some extra access to another program that you have or something like that. And you can use that as a promotional strategy rather than being overly reliant on dropping your prices to get people on board. And that brings us to pricing truth number 6, which is the low price trap. Sometimes I hear from coaches who are like, Jason, I'm having trouble getting people who can afford me. And so that can send certain coaches into this kind of vicious cycle where they start dropping their rates even more and making pricing a core part of their marketing. So I'll see posts talking about how affordable their coaching is, and they talk about being the lowest price coach out there. Here's the problem with making pricing a core tenet of your marketing and your sales process. What will happen when you do this is you will attract price sensitive buyers who are only interested in the lowest price. And these are the worst types of people to work with because you get on calls with them and they're just price shopping. They don't care about you and what you do. They're just looking for the cheapest option. And so those people generally will push you to lower your rates even more, because when you're talking to a price sensitive buyer, no rate is going to be low enough. You don't want to play in this segment of the market. Instead, I'd rather see you in a premium segment of the market, because the truth is the best clients are not price shopping. They're not looking around for the cheapest coach. And if I truly believe that working with this person is going to generate more in return than whatever the investment is, Cool, I'm good, let's do it. So this is how premium buyers think. They're not price shopping. And I think it's really important to remember this in terms of your marketing, in terms of your sales, just how you position what you do. Don't try to play the low price game. Don't try to be the cheapest option. Don't make pricing a core tenet of your marketing and sales strategy. Otherwise, it's a race to the bottom and you're gonna have a lot of trouble as a result. And that brings us to number 7, which is the truth about selling high ticket. I talked to a lot of coaches who are making this transition into selling higher ticket offers. And sometimes they started out selling $150, $200 sessions. One of the first things I'll tell them is, hey, it's time to raise your rates. And a lot of stories around this, right? Like, oh, I feel a lot of resistance around this. No one's gonna pay me at that level. The thing that holds people back from charging high ticket is more mindset work than anything else. And this is what I've seen again and again in working with our clients. If you do the mindset work, you start embodying really the integrity behind premium level pricing. You also walk the walk. This is a big piece of this too. So you got to be the kind of person who's investing at this level too. If you're going to ask other people to invest, you got to have that congruence and integrity there. And there's plenty of people out there that will pay you higher ticket rates to work with you. It does at the beginning, just take a little bit of faith and trust that if you do raise your rates, people will actually come. And of course, you got to have the right marketing and sales in place too. And that's a big part of what we help people with inside our programs. That brings us to pricing truth number 8, which is payment plan problems. It can be very tempting when you're on a sales call with a potential client who really wants to work with you and you know you can help them to be able to offer longer term payment plans when someone's in a place where they just can't make that payment up front. And I think that's totally cool. Like having payment plans as an option for clients who really need them is great, but there is a limit to how far you want to go with your payment plans. And we've learned so much about this after working with so many different clients and seeing the data behind what happens when you offer longer term payment plans. When I say longer term, generally what I'm saying is anything over 6 months. We used to offer a 12-month plan. That was the longest payment plan that we offered. And what we found was the clients who signed up over 12 months generally were the hardest clients to work with. They got the worst results and they were much more likely to have issues in terms of paying off their balance. If someone needs a super long-term payment plan, usually, not always, but usually, they're not in a great place to be able to move forward in your program. It can be tempting on the front end to be like, oh, let me just offer these super long-term plans because, I'll be able to sign these clients who wouldn't have the ability to work with me otherwise. But in reality, it's often more trouble than it's worth. Where is that limit for you? I think, for us, it's 6 months or less. I think it's really up to you in terms of deciding kind of what feels aligned for you. Just be careful with longer term payment plans because they can look like a win on the surface, but they can actually create more issues in your business on the back end. And that brings us to number 9, which is the truth around withholding pricing. Here's what we've learned. Generally, when you put pricing on your website and share pricing up front, there are going to be a certain group of people, not everyone, there are going to be some people who hear your pricing up front and they might have been the kind of people who after a 40-minute sales call would say, yeah, that makes sense to me. But when they hear your pricing up front, they're going to say, oh, that's too expensive. I don't want to do this because they're hearing that number out of context and they haven't gone through the steps of your sales process that people need to really go through in order to properly contextualize that investment. So sharing your pricing up front can often scare a percentage of people away. Now, there are benefits to this. It does create more transparency. You're far less likely to deal with issues in terms of objections around pricing on sales calls if someone comes to that conversation knowing how much it costs to work with you. These are some major benefits, but the drawbacks are significant too. So should you share your pricing up front or should you withhold it until a sales call? Well, I think the best answer is it really depends on where you're at in your business. So if you are in the early stages of your coaching business, lead flow is maybe still a challenge. So you're not getting lots of leads. I think it's better to withhold pricing and just get on the call with every single person that you can. Number one, you're going to learn a lot from every single conversation that you have. And also you're going to sign typically more clients as a result of that because there are going to be people who might have been scared off by your pricing up front. Then they get on a sales call with you and they hear the investment at the end after you've asked all those questions and done, a really good job in that sales process. By the way, a big part of what we teach people inside Coach and Launchpad and all of our programs is exactly how to do this. And they get to the end of the call and they hear the investment. They're like, okay, maybe that feels a little stretchy, but I'm so connected to wanting to do this that I'm good. Let's do it. I'm ready to make it work. So that is generally my recommendation for coaches who are in the earlier stages of their journey where lead flow isn't like abundant yet. My advice changes for coaches who are further along. If you're the coach who is at the stage of your business where you're getting a lot of people who are reaching out to you, you're having a lot of sales calls, and you're in a place where you're getting on a lot of calls with people who you spend 45 minutes with, and then you get to the end of the conversation and you find out that they just don't have the money. If you're dealing with a lot of financial objections on sales calls and you're looking for a way to reduce the number of calls that you're taking, I think it's better at this stage of your business to share your prices up front. And this is the transition that we made in our business when we really started scaling past like 10, 15, 20K months. This really helped with increasing my close rate. So my advice changes depending on where you're at in your business. In general, in the early stages, I think it's better to withhold pricing and just get on a call. In the later stages, you can share the pricing up front, but just be careful with this. And that brings us to number 10, which is the free coaching trap. This is a big one I hear from a lot of coaches who've been told, hey, one of the best ways to grow your business is just to give away a bunch of free coaching. We used to recommend this, by the way, full transparency. It's some of the earlier coaches that I work with when I first started business coaching. It wasn't really working that well. And what I started to learn, when you give your coaching to someone for free, you are training them not to value it. You're basically saying my coaching is worth $0. So it's very difficult when you've done that. You've basically kind of created that association in someone's mind to then turn to that same person and say, you want to sign up for my coaching program for $5,000 after you've got all this coaching for free. It's very difficult to do that. And so, this doesn't work very well. And I know there are books out there, The Prosperous Coach, and, people who will recommend this, but in my experience, it's not a great marketing strategy. So my recommendation for you is don't give away free coaching. I think there are so many other things you can do instead that work so much better, but this is not a particularly effective form of marketing. When you give your coaching away for free, you are training people not to value it. So not a really great approach if you're wanting to sign more and higher paying clients. Okay, so hopefully these 10 weird pricing truths should give you some clarity on how to price your coaching, how to make more money as a coach, and ultimately how to sign higher paying clients through the work you do. As I mentioned, this is one big key to success. There's also a number of other keys you got to have in place in order to sign higher paying clients more consistently in your coaching business. And if you're looking for a roadmap that you can follow to help you make that happen, I put together that free client attraction guide, walks through so much of my best advice on this. I'd love to share it with you. I think it's gonna be super helpful. It's completely free, and all you got to do to get it is click the link above or in the description down below. And if you enjoyed this video, you're definitely gonna love that one too. So click the link on the screen to go check that out, and I'll see you in the next video.